Hey everyone, welcome back to Coffee with Craner. Today I have Lieutenant Commander Chris Elliott, Commanding Officer, Canadian Armed Forces, Naval Reserve, HMCS Hunter. Did I say that properly?
You got it.
Okay, yeah. World's longest title, but a very, very important role. He has over 14 years of military experience, and he's here locally in Windsor, right in Sandwich West.
Correct.
Is where their base is.
Yeah, that's where our unit is. Yeah.
Unit, yes. So very excited to have you on, talk about your role, your experience in the Navy, how it started. Thanks for being here.
Excellent. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Favorite question of the show, where in Windsor or Windsor, Essex is your favorite place for coffee?
Well, that's a great question. I'm out in Tecumseh now, so I have to say the Naked Cup.
Okay.
What a great spot right there, and lots of happening in that little community.
Yes, it is. It's a great spot, great location, right by the, I think they have a marina right behind
Correct.
it now. So,
yeah, that's right.
Man, I'm craving that.
There you go. I have to do it.
Chris, for those that don't know, we'll start with this is, what is the role of a commanding officer for HMCS Hunter?
Yeah, thanks. So the role of commanding officer is in the Navy as a reserve unit. Really, you're like a regional manager. So
Okay.
all things
Yep.
Navy that happen in Windsor, Essex are up to me. And as a result, the buck stops with me. So my job is to recruit, train, develop, deploy people on the Canadian Armed Forces operations in support of our missions, our larger missions around the globe. So in Windsor, we have about 140 or so naval reservists, all at varying stages of their life and career. They serve mostly in a part-time capacity, save for the 15 or so that run the unit full-time. And they're constantly on a cycle of doing some training in the evenings with us, getting ready to go on their next occupation course, or deploying, like we've had almost 10 people in the last year deploy on Canadian Armed Forces operations.
Wow. And how did you start in the Navy?
That's a great question. So I take you back to Riverside High School. We're sitting in gym class. I've gone into a 5th year. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. I think I want to go to university, and I know I got to make some money to do that. A friend of mine is sitting in the room talking about how he finished basic training and he made some money that summer. And I said, whoa, I didn't know we had that in our community. And I said, take me there tonight.
Okay. Yep.
After school, he drove me down to the recruiting center, and I walked in and said, hey, I'm here to join the Navy. And this kind of a comical pause, and they're like, okay, what occupation do you want to be in? I was like, I don't know what that means. So
I just want to be in the Navy.
That's right. That's right. And, I always think deep down, I felt kind of a need to serve the country, right? Like that's really, I think, where it founded. So when I finally heard about it, I said, yeah, this aligns with where I see myself. And then going down there and working through that process, within, 3 or 4 months, I was away on basic training and never looked back.
And to join the Navy, so you'd got there and you're like, hey, I'm ready. What was that process like at that time?
Sure.
How does one join the Navy?
Yeah, so if you want to join the Navy, you go down to our unit. I have some recruiters there. They'll start an application for you online, and then they'll work through a few different things. Back then, we had an aptitude test. We no longer have that requirement. We do have a fitness test, so you'll complete the force test. A very reasonable task-based evaluation.
Beep test?
No beep test anymore.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. Did not like that one.
Very good. So we also have a medical screening and a security screening. Of course, you're becoming a member of the forces, a federal employee.
Yes.
So then once you're through that process, they do an interview and you're in. Should you check all the boxes?
Yes.
So generally speaking, you have to be at least 16 years of age with parental consent.
Huh.
Yeah, to join the reserves. You have to have at least 15 high school credits, so we'll check for that. And you need to be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident in order to qualify.
Would you say the process is difficult?
It's not extremely difficult. You definitely have to be proactive. We have a great recruiting team down there that kind of makes it a personal job, so they really work with you to make sure we get everything in. Mm-hmm. And then based on how kind of easy the file is, we'll determine the length of time it kind of takes to work through the system. So.
And did you start part-time at the beginning?
Certainly, yeah, and I've been a career reservist, if you will. So over the last, it's almost 16 years now. But I've been full time and part time. And that's the beauty of the reserves, is that you can take opportunities to do some full time work, come back to your civilian life, do your civilian work. So I started part time, truly as a reservist in the evenings, and went away for my first summer full time to do basic training for 2 months, and then returned to start my kinesiology undergrad.
And where was the training? Was it locally, or did you have to go?
Back then, it was in Borden, Ontario,
Okay.
and that was a lovely summer. I really enjoyed it, quite frankly.
Hmm.
And now we'll do most of that training here in Windsor in the evenings and weekends, and we'll do 3 weeks of it just outside of Quebec City, Valcartier, we call
It was full time the end goal for you right when you started, or you weren't sure at the time? Were you working anywhere else?
Yeah, so at the time, I had gone through the 2 years at Burger King, 2 years at Domino's. I found this, and I said, this is a great opportunity.
Hmm.
So I stayed predominantly with the Navy throughout my undergrad, save a couple odd jobs here and there. But as I graduated from kinesiology, I took a full-time contract on the West Coast for a year, sailed on the ships as a marine engineer. At the end of that summer, I applied to Teachers College. And so I came back, I did Teachers College, worked a little bit full time in the unit because there was a need through that time period. But when I graduated, I became a high school teacher in the community
Oh,
for
excellent.
almost 5 years between my occasional teaching and my full time teaching. So.
Hmm. And how are you loving being a reservist?
So a reservist just gives you the ultimate flexibility,
Yeah.
right? So fast forward, I am teaching. The pandemic starts. There's an operation here in the city to kind of set up a military response to be able to support the community if it's needed.
Yes.
So I hit pause on my teaching career at that time. And so I take a year off. By the end of that year, I decide I kind of like what I'm doing full time in the Navy. So I say, thanks, I'm going to continue to do this. And after that, I had an opportunity to work for the Gordie Howe International Bridge project in the construction safety department. And so I did that for some period of time, spending almost 4 years between some part-time and full-time work on that project.
Hmm.
And then as I was continuing with my Navy career part-time, there was an opportunity that came up for me to be full time, and I said, I think I like that, and I pursued it. So I've been, full time with the Navy for almost the last 3 years now. So.
What is the best part of the job?
Best part of being commanding officer, it kind of brings together all these things that I've done in the community. So it really allows me to bridge the gap, but mostly I get to work with young people who are doing incredible things, and I'm watching them develop into these leaders within our community.
Hmm.
And that's probably the most rewarding thing.
And now you're quite young to be a commanding officer, right?
That's true. So when I took command, I was 34 years old. I was, and I believe still am, the youngest commanding officer currently serving. And I'll throw in that for perspective, people were much younger than me back in World War II and things like that.
For sure.
But currently serving, it's not common to be my age and be commanding officer.
What's the average age?
It's a great question. It's certainly older than me, but I don't have that info.
Yeah. And how was that? Those you said 34 was on.
When I took over, I'm 35 now, so it's been a year in command.
Reflecting on the year, what has that experience been like?
I have sincerely enjoyed it, and we talk about this a lot. It is the best part of your career. It's the pinnacle of it, to hold command and to be ultimately responsible for all the things that happen in your community,
Mm-hmm.
in the region. When it comes to the Navy, is it's a daunting task, but it's rewarding. So over the past year, I gave my unit the challenge, and I kind of set it on 3 pillars. So leadership, operations, and community. And I said, to frame that out a bit, you join the reserves, you put this uniform on, it says Canada on your shoulder, you instantly become somebody that people look to in times of crisis.
Yes.
And it's our responsibility to develop them as leaders so they're able to respond. And we do that through providing them opportunities to take on responsibility. And through a mix of situational leadership and gradual release of responsibility, we're building a high trust environment so that young people are comfortable to take risks and try new things.
Mm-hmm.
And that results in us running our annual kind of local international exercise where we have people who are 22, 23 years old leading that exercise, which it's not common to see that
Excellent.
other places in the Navy.
No doubt.
I also challenge them for operations, and I mentioned to you before, but we've had, I think, almost 10 people deploy in the last year. So deployment experience is critical through your military career. If you can go out and get that experience and bring it back to your unit, you're better for it. You're a better leader. You can go out and you have a bit more perspective when it comes to why we're doing all this. And so I've had people deploy to Kuwait. I've had people deploy to Bahrain, Latvia, to the Caribbean with HMCS Harry DeWolf on anti-drug trafficking mission, and a few more up Nanook in the Arctic as well.
Wow. Yeah, it's a great experience, like you said, to bring back and share, what went on, how you handled it, and that's what they're being prepared for every day, right?
Certainly.
Now, for somebody that's looking to join HMCS Hunter, the Navy in general, what advice would you share with them? Maybe things you didn't know when you first started back in high school?
Yeah, it's the military kind of as a whole can kind of seem like it's a challenging thing to get into. We accept people from all walks of life, all different backgrounds, and the nice thing about putting on a blank uniform when you first start is everybody's given an equal opportunity to succeed. So we expect you to be a blank slate. Unlike a lot of other occupations or careers, you don't have to have some prerequisite knowledge in order to join. We're going to take you as you are and try to build you towards that person in uniform who can be a leader in their community. And so, where you have the nerves, and maybe, that's okay to have because maybe it's important to you, we're going to commit to working with you and developing you along the way. And, there's lots of different roles in the organization. So not everybody is the soldier in the trench or the sailor on the ship handling the lines. There's an entire business enterprise that is the Canadian Armed Forces, that is the Navy, that enables those things to happen. But it's a smaller percentage of people that are actually out there doing that work at any given time.
Excellent. And how do you see those people develop? So a young person joining versus seeing them, and you're seeing this transformation, obviously. How are they changing from that training? That somebody comes in, they're brand new, they're green, and then you see them now. How did they change?
Yeah, it's funny. I'll recall a time where I interviewed for a position, and they paused the interview partway through, and they said, "It's very clear that you read the military." And I don't know what that means, but
Okay.
it's probably something like you have a level of professionalism,
Yes.
leadership, organizational skills, discipline, self-discipline. And those are the kind of foundational qualities that we're building within our force right there. And so the people who come in, they're going to achieve a baseline through basic training and then carry that on through their career and refine those things. So when they come in as a blank slate, we're going to work with them to make sure they get those qualities right. And generally speaking, they go into the community after people. They have a tell. And, it might be in one of a number of those things, but it's certainly distinguishable.
Yes, no doubt. In a good way.
Certainly.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And we hear the name all the time, HMCS Hunter. For somebody that might not know, what does that mean? What is that?
Yeah, HMCS Hunter. So it's His Majesty's Canadian Ship Hunter. So the reserve units, 24 of them around the country for the Navy, they are stone frigates, as we call it. So they're commissioned ships in buildings that are ashore. If we go back to a gentleman who's actually buried in our community here, Rear Admiral Walter Hose, creates the Naval Reserve in 1923 and spreads the Navy across the country. You can imagine the two largest naval bases in Canada are on the East Coast and on the West Coast, and that doesn't cover a lot of land or a lot of people, right? The majority of our population in Canada is between Windsor and Montreal through that corridor, right? So we have to bring the Navy inland to connect with the people and have that representation. And that's the critical role we fill in our community. So we're meant to be that piece of the Navy that connects with the people in the Windsor-Essex region and make sure that, they know what the Navy is. They know we have a Navy for starters. and whatever we can do to get out into the community to connect with them and bring that Navy experience to them so they understand the value, and then potentially join the Navy to go out and do those things.
And you mentioned 144?
Give or take, yeah. Give or take.
What are some of the roles within the Navy?
Yeah, perfect.
Specifically in Windsor.
Yeah, in Windsor. So we have a number of occupations. So generally speaking, we have officers who are in more leadership roles, middle managers and above. And then we have non-commissioned members, like I started out as, and then I transferred to become an officer later in my career. But we have the occupations, and at a base level, that's what we expect you to do. So you could be a bosun, somebody who kind of learns how to drive boats and handle weapons.
You said bosun?
Bosun. Yeah.
Bosun, okay.
Yeah. We have marine technicians or marine engineers who, are really working to work on all the systems that make a ship go to sea. So, everything from saltwater cooling to freshwater to the blackwater systems, but also the engines, the propulsion generation, and things like that. And then we have naval communicators who are becoming more of our IT specialists. We have naval combat information operators, and we have intelligence operators as well. And then we have our purple trades, we call them, who are kind of our business specialists. So material management, human resources, financial services types. When it comes to the officers, the logistics officer will lead those purple trades. We have an intelligence officers who do that intelligence work in our community and plug into the larger system that is part of our Five Eyes community. And then we also have naval warfare officers who are essentially learn to become navigators on the ship and eventually the captains of the ships that go to sea.
So you mentioned purple trades.
Correct.
Where does the word purple?
That's a great question that I've never explored.
Okay.
It's something to do with them crossing all three elements. So if you're a human resource administrator in the Navy, you could work in the Army or Air Force interchangeably with kind of no barrier. You just apply to that position. Your uniform's the only thing different than the skills you've been taught along the way. And in fact, we had an Army corporal come to us as a human resource administrator wearing a green uniform. Spent a year and a half with us in the Navy and said, I'd actually like to switch to the Navy because this sounds a lot cooler. So
Is it cooler?
Yeah, well, go Navy. Yeah. Well, we love our Army counterparts. Obviously, there's 3 Army reserve units here in the city. They do a great job at their work, and they're working up to Opry Assurance to deploy their folks to Latvia right now. It's a bit of a battle between us of kind of who's better in that. One that we usually settle through the Army-Navy hockey game annually.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
That's right. Yeah. So, and it's a great event to connect our reserve forces to our community.
Yes.
Yes.
Who won last year?
Well, so the Navy wins 4 years in a row, but this past year in February, the Army did get a win in overtime. We're proud of them. Good for them. But expect the Navy to be back with full force next year.
What happened? What took place? You think that maybe caused that defeat?
Look, they definitely had the will. They were committed to the win, and they did a great job rallying. They were down 2 goals in the third, so a big comeback, a great way to win. And again, for the spirit of that game and that kind of camaraderie, to build around that, it was important that they got a win this year. We can continue this rivalry.
They have to have one.
They've got to get one. Yeah. So you've got to get one. So.
But you're bringing the cup home this year.
Yeah. Well, it'll probably be next February, but yeah, we're going to look forward to getting that back in our unit for sure.
Excellent. Now, for you, what has been some of the highlights of your profession so far, your career in the Navy?
Yeah, as a young person who joined the Navy, I didn't really travel a lot before that. I'd been, in Ontario, and obviously we make it across the border once in a while, but I was kind of limited to my geographical area. But the minute I joined the Navy, all of a sudden I'm, finished basic training. I'm flying to the West Coast out in Victoria for a weekend. I'm in Quebec. I'm in Halifax. And now, I'm in all these places year round, and I do travel quite a bit with my role in Ottawa as well, and that's just the opportunity to travel. Has been outstanding. I've been pretty much all over the place at this point, but it's been a lot of fun. The unique experience, being on the ships and seeing that piece of society and the world it is a pretty select community.
Mm-hmm.
So, less than 1% of Canadians are in the Canadian Armed Forces, a smaller percentage in the Navy, and maybe ever have joined or served or wear this uniform. And so there's a bit of pride that goes with that as well. And I'm happy to say, my service has really contributed to who I've become as a person.
Mm-hmm.
But through that, you get some humbling experiences. My first night out at sea as a 19 or 20 years old, and I walk out on the back deck as an engineer. I strap in to go and check some of the engine spaces, and I'm seeing it's all dark, wall of water, and then all of a sudden all moon, and it's nice and bright, and the fluctuations of the waves, and I go, wow, this is very humbling. The ocean could swallow us whole, so it gives you a little perspective, certainly. But
and you knew you weren't going to be seasick or anything, so you passed that test, right?
I did pass that test, very luckily. People get seasick; it's part of the job, and we obviously take some Gravol or things like that to make sure we can keep working. I've been lucky; I've never gotten seasick in that regard, so good for me, I guess. But other experiences that have been memorable. Going through the different training courses, meeting the people that are from all walks of life in this country, building those relationships so that when I do travel to all these places, I usually have a cohort of people that I like to reconnect with and visit with, and see how they're doing in their lives. But I'll give you a little tidbit. Recently, this year in February, I had the opportunity to go out to Halifax to visit the HMCS Windsor, which is aptly named after our community here in Windsor. And that is one of our submarines. And they did bring me on board for a day and out for a sail. And it was probably one of the most unique experiences of my career is to sail on a submarine for a day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's really cool. And for a lot of people in the Navy, do they have that ability to go and travel, or is it depending on your role that gives you that opportunity?
So as a reservist, regardless of how young you are, the first thing that you're going to do once you complete basic training, you're going to do 3 weeks of that in Quebec, but when you come back to the unit, there's going to be these training opportunities on weekends, and our goal is skill development, right? So we're going to help you learn how to be the occupation you've joined as. And so through those opportunities, if you're available and interested, you put your hand up and you could be flying to Halifax or Victoria. And I got great support when I was doing that early in my career through the university and my professors there that really supported my development and my military service by giving me some leeway in how I was submitting assignments and things like that, so I could balance them both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really cool. And now, final question for you for the next few years. I'm not sure how long a term lasts as a commanding officer. Is it
2 more years? Yeah.
2 more years?
Yeah.
Do you reapply, or is it 2 more years and?
So it's an appointment, a national appointment. There's probably an opportunity to stay longer, but on the books it's 3 years at first. It also just depends on the development of the other people at the unit, right?
For sure.
So as you kind of move on from these types of leadership roles, then you can move into a regional or national leadership role. But we'll look mostly at the succession plan of officers who are coming up into the executive officer and commanding officer positions. And if your unit's healthy, well, I have to get out of the way for the next generation to be able to have that opportunity, those responsibilities. So
100%. So you have a couple more years left. What are some things that you're looking forward to or looking to take HMCS Hunter? What's next?
Yeah, what's next? So the mission right now of the Canadian Armed Forces, first and foremost, is reconstitution. So we need to recruit and retain people. So my goal through that is to build programs and partnerships in our community. I say this sometimes, but I'm a conduit of federal funds to come into our community, and my currency really is to invest that in people and their development. And if they stay in the Navy, that's a great thing. And if they move on and do other great things in our community, then that's only a benefit for all of us.
Yes.
So through those programs and partnerships, things like our high school co-op program, where students can come in at 16 or 17, earn 4 high school credits for doing basic training with us.
I did not know you could do that.
That's a good opportunity. It's a paid one as well.
If we can rewind the clock, I would have definitely enrolled.
Me too. I would have joined sooner. And then the University of Windsor recently has adopted a serving scholar program.
Okay.
So we're able to work with the university to make sure that our serving members, our reservists, get the time they need to and can navigate the complexities of having military service and an academic career at the same time.
Balancing both. Yeah.
We're doing a lot of great work with St. Clair College in building out the pathways for people to join or people to upskill or retrain through them. So, through those relationships in our community and that investment, that time, the outreach, if you will, we're able to build these things that support kind of our primary efforts. The other thing that we do in our community is we host an annual exercise. So every kind of emergency service that has a Marine unit, so police and fire, the Coast Guard and Coast Guard Auxiliary.
This was held recently, I believe, right?
Correct, yeah. And so we all get together at the start of the season. It's an important opportunity. We had 13 different agencies working together and all looking at a public safety nexus and how do we work together to respond to the benefit of the public. Because quite frankly, there's not a lot of assets out there to cover a quite large space on the water. Yeah. And so we're better if we can work together and communicate. And that's kind of functionally the goal. And that's been running for 10 years now. And I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon.
No, it definitely shouldn't. So that's excellent, Chris. I really appreciate you being here. And for those that want to serve, what's the first step? Do they pick up the phone and call you? What do they do?
So you can always go on the website forces.ca. And you can forces.ca.
Forces.ca.
Yeah. And you can look on there for the different occupations. If you're looking to join the Navy or the Army part-time here in Windsor, well, you would select the reserve or part-time option and choose your occupation that aligns. If that's a complicated process, it kind of can be a lot of information all at once because there's a lot of different ways to come into the forces. Then pick up the phone and call us. I've even responded. Our Facebook and Instagram, our folks will respond to messages that we receive on there. But we'll set an appointment. You'll come down and visit with our recruiter, and we'll give you all the information you need to make an informed decision.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, forces.ca. It's not a difficult website to find.
It's the one thing we did very well. I made that simple.
Yeah, it's a good thing nobody bought the URL or the web link. So
very good. Yeah.
Thank you so much for educating us on the Navy, and there's so much that I didn't know that I learned today, and a lot of people don't know about. I think that's where you come in, is that education that you're bringing in your role, and we hear great things about the base unit. How do you?
The ship.
The ship.
HMCS Hunter, the stone frigate, yeah.
Okay, easy as that. So thank you very much, Chris.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to rewatch the episode, just visit coffeewithcrater.com or visit forces.ca to learn.